My girlfriend has a secret conversation every morning, so I decided to set up a camera, and the outcome was my girlfriend, 26F, and I, 32M, have been dating for a few months. My work switched to work from home recently, so I started staying over more, and things have been great, apart from one issue. When I used to stay over and get up early for work, my girlfriend would stay in bed until after I left. As soon as I started working from home, she became an instant early riser, always getting up maybe 20 minutes before me. When I asked her about it, she says she just likes a quiet coffee in the morning. I got up early a couple of times, made fresh coffee, and handed her a cup so we could enjoy it together, but wherever I sit, she would go and sit elsewhere. This has been really getting to me, so I pressed the point and said it would be nice to sit together in the mornings. It didn't go great, and when I tried to sit with her the next morning, I am seeing red even as I type this, she went in her office and locked the door behind her. She did this several days in a row last week, and when I tried to bring it up, she says she doesn't want to talk about it. Yesterday was my day off, so I stayed in bed, waited till she got up for her quiet coffee, and I crept up to the office. And as I suspected, she's talking to someone. She was speaking very softly, so I couldn't make it out, but it sounded like an intimate conversation. I've barely spoken to her since, and I don't know what to say. How do you address this when she refuses to even speak about it? What is she getting from another relationship when I am with her 24/7 over the course of the last 2 weeks? I do have a small camera I could put in her office. I know it's wrong, but this is driving me crazy, and if I need to confront her, it will be easier with all the evidence. Update. Today, when she got up and went to make coffee, I took her mug and wouldn't let her have it. I was only joking at first, but it turned worse, with her saying, "Just give me my mug," and I lost my temper and said, "Just tell me who you're freaking cheating on me with." This is where I think I'm the a-hole. Maybe because it was something she's been doing every day since her dad died almost a year ago. She talks to him every morning while she drinks her coffee, just chats about her day or whatever. Obviously, I backed off right away and sat down. I told her it's fine and she should just keep doing it. I want her to, and I just needed to know. I just thought she was talking to some other guy. She shook her head and said it was just a silly thing and she couldn't keep doing it now that she had to talk about it. I don't know why me knowing what she's doing makes a difference, and would have avoided this whole thing. She seemed sad, but she was smiling, so I went in the bedroom, but just a minute later, I heard her crying really hard. I went back and she was saying, "He's gone now, he's really gone." So I said, "Are you talking about your dad?" And she just got up and ran out the door. She has not answered my texts, and then about an hour ago, her brother came to the door and called me a freaking a-hole, and worse. I honestly thought he was going to hit me. He took some of her stuff and said she won't be home tonight. I never meant to upset her, and is it not unreasonable to want to know who your partner is talking to every morning? I am sorry she got upset, but am I really in the wrong here? Update 2. My girlfriend and me had an argument last week over coffee of all things. It got out of hand, and she went to stay somewhere else to cool off. Now she is only speaking to me through her brother, who hates me anyway, so I don't have any chance to set things right. He is saying I need to move out in 3 days so she can come home, but I have nowhere to go and can't get a place of my own so fast. I know if I could just talk to her, we could get past this, but everything is going through him, and I am sure he is twisting her words and mine to keep us apart. She has blocked me on everything, and her phone is here, so I can't call or text her. What can I do to get past her brother who is trying to keep us apart? I need to set things straight or I'm going to be homeless. Edit. She has taken some leave from her job, but her work phone and laptop are here, so I could possibly use her job to convince her to speak with me. Then in the comment section, OP elaborated with some more details and explained on his living and working arrangements. The house belongs to her, although I have a key and do live here full time. I don't drive and don't have much money right now. Also, I need internet access for my job, and I've been using a laptop that isn't mine. I need to talk to her, or I'm finished. I know we can sort this out, but her brother is deliberately preventing it. I haven't got anywhere else to go. I am not using homeless lightly. I have not been contributing so far as I am trying to deal with my lease on my old place, but I was planning to very shortly. My girlfriend owns the house outright, so I wasn't shorting her by not contributing to rent or anything. Then OP elaborated on his old apartment. We have been together for a few months. I've been living here a few weeks due to a problem with my lease at my old place. One of the problems her brother has with me is because his friend's dad owns my building, so it's obviously nothing to do with me and his sister, he's just being a jerk. I don't have a lot of stuff, probably a suitcase of clothes and a few other items. I've not been able to collect my stuff from my old apartment. My big problem is having no access to a computer as I can't do my job without that, and I've been using a laptop here. I only have about $400 right now and another $70 in cash. Additionally, I had a dispute with the landlord and he won't let me collect my things. I fell out with the landlord, so I moved out, a totally normal thing to do. This is completely unrelated and I have given her brother no reason to have a problem with me, ever. Also, I broke the lease on my apartment, so I can't go back there. It is very hard to get anywhere here without a reference, and I doubt I have enough for a deposit. Most of my money is tied up in various deals right now, and I would take a big loss if I tried to pull it back. Then OP elaborated on using her work phone and laptop to force her to talk to him. They are in her office. Her personal phone is in there too, although I think she has her tablet. I told her brother to take her phone, and he said no. She'd get it when she's home. Edit. What he actually said was to F off and to stay out of his effing way. I have no idea why I am trying to hide the kind of person he actually is. He has no reason to act this way towards me. And I was just genuinely looking for advice and hoping someone would suggest something. I'm not a bad guy. Then OP elaborated on his current predicament and problems with her brother. Her brother has threatened to literally drag me out if I am not gone by Wednesday. I'm pretty sure if I leave, I will not be able to get back in. I walked to the store yesterday on my way back, and I saw her brother drive past, so I cut across to get back in before him, but I know someone on the street is telling him when I leave. He did not stop, but just drove past me when he saw me in the window and didn't stop. The problem is, once I am out, I would find it very hard to prove I live there. So if he does physically get me out, he could tell the cops I'm just some crazy guy, and the neighbors would stick up for him. It would not surprise me if he has agreed to this with the neighbor already, and that's who told him when I went out. I am genuinely looking for advice on how to get around her terrible brother and make her listen to me. This is not a big argument, and we can settle it easily. I just need to talk to her. What am I meant to do? Just go screw her brother? Say it's over, I'll just pack my stuff and go live in a park? Then OP replied to another comment and said, "You don't know anything about this, and you'd buy him a drink for bullying me into being homeless. I think that says a lot about you. It was just a stupid thing. My girlfriend is upset about some other stuff, and she is mixing it all up into this one thing. If she just cooled off and let me talk to her, we could get over this in 5 minutes, but he's spent 3 days whispering poison into her ears." Her brother is bullying, standing between two adults using his physical size to stop them from talking to each other. He is the one that has used abusive language. He is the one that has threatened violence. He is the one who is threatening to make someone homeless. If I posted this from the other side, I am a landlord and I am using my brother to make someone homeless in 3 days and refusing to let them speak, you guys would be all over it. And then finally, OP cannot help but return to one of the original replies about planting a camera, saying he wished he had done that instead. Just FYI, if I had followed your advice, this would have been settled quickly and quietly with no harm done. I listened to people saying stuff like, use your words, and now I wish I had just listened to you. This is a weird story. I don't really know what to say. I feel like I need some more details, but then we just read him replying to comments, and I feel like I know more, but I don't. I mean, we don't know why the brother hates him. And then, there was the thing with the dead dad. I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, yeah, maybe she should have. I understand why he thinks that. Like, he probably thought, oh, maybe she is cheating. Why would she have a secret conversation? Why doesn't she want to talk about it? And then it got I don't know. It got messy, guys. What do you guys think? Next story. Story number 2. OP wants to give up her 2-year-old toddler for adoption. I came to the realization that I need to place my almost 2-year-old daughter up for adoption. I am a single mom with no family support and no support from the birth father. I came from a broken, abusive family. My mom was an addict. I was actually in foster care from the age of 12 until I aged out. I struggled from PTSD, depression, and thoughts of taking my life for my whole adulthood. I am 30 years old, never wanted to be a parent, so when I was pregnant, I wanted to put my baby up for adoption, but my mom and family pressured me into keeping the baby. They promised me they would help me, but the one who really helped me was my mother, even though she wasn't dependable because of her addiction. All my family lives out of state, and my mom passed away from an OD in January of 2021. So now I'm all alone. I actually have a good job and I'm able to financially support my daughter, but my mental health is so bad. 6 months after giving birth, I was involuntarily hospitalized for self-harming. I had a case of PPD. Maybe I still do, I don't know. All I do know is that I'm in therapy and my mental health is not getting better. I had a healthy pregnancy, no drug or tobacco use. I didn't even drink coffee. My daughter is very healthy, loving, well-adjusted, and hitting all her milestones. She loves her stuffed animals. She calls them her friendies. She loves affection and cuddling. She loves music and dancing. If you say happy feet, she will shuffle her feet really fast. She's really the cutest thing in the world. Unfortunately, my mental health has made it difficult to care for her, especially after losing my mother, because I have no support. Sometimes I leave her crying in the crib because I just can't handle it. I love her, but I just feel so disconnected from her. It's not healthy for her, and I want her to have a better life than what I had. I know she is attached to me, but I believe she's young enough to make an adjusted transition. I guess this is a long story. I just don't want people judging me. I'm just looking for any advice or people's experiences with placing a toddler up for adoption. I'm hoping to go with a private agency, but not sure if they'll take toddlers. Even though I was in foster care, I'm not sure how state/foster adoption agencies work. Can I choose the parents? And am I able to have an open adoption? I know with private agencies, I can choose the parents and I am able to have an open adoption. Ideally, I prefer a same-sex couple. I was SA'd by multiple men as a child, and I really don't trust any hetero men with her. I just don't want my daughter to go through what I have been through. I want her to have a good family. Any non-judging advice would be great. Thank you. Update. Just wanted to update this post. Apologies for not responding sooner. My daughter and I are doing much better than before. It wasn't the best experience to get to this good place, but it all worked out in the end. We both seem to be in a good place. Here is the long version. Back in February to March of 2022, I went through a bad mental health break. I had thoughts of taking my own life. I was depressed. I lost over 20 pounds in a week from it. I did have an attempt at taking my own life, but I ended up calling for help and the EMT took me to the hospital. I went into an inpatient hospital called HRI Hospital. It's a private one, and it was more of a holding detention than a psychiatric hospital. I did learn a lot from the other patients, so the patients were more helpful than the staff. After that experience, I ended up doing an extra psychiatric program, but it was a PHP, partial hospital program, which is an intense outpatient one where I spent 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday, doing therapy work. It was actually more helpful. They focused on teaching about CBT, coping skills, how to reframe negative thought patterns, so that was actually more helpful than the inpatient hospital. As for my daughter's update, right before all of this, I surrendered custody of my daughter to DCF, so she wasn't around me when I had my mental break back in February and never saw any of the stuff above. Thankfully, she was placed in a very good foster home while I got my help. I had to go through a lot of treatments and follow DCF recommendations, but at the end of September 2022, my daughter was able to come back home, and our court case was officially dismissed in December of 2022. As for the current update in 2023, it's definitely not perfect. It's still a transition, and some days are better than others. Being a single mother is just going to be hard at times, and I just need to get used to it. People tell me it gets easier when they start regular school, so I'm excited for that. My daughter is doing well. She definitely has a slight separation anxiety when I leave her or drop her off at daycare, but it's actually gotten better since last September of 2022. DCF is still doing monthly check-ins for the next 6 months. Her ex-foster mom still comes and sees her and even takes us on family events, so it's been a good transition for her. My daughter is a sweet little girl. She loves affection and hugs and seems to be developing emotionally well with everything that she went through, except for some minor separation anxiety, but that's really gotten better too. I have just been working on my mental health, refraining from negative thought patterns, staying away from toxic people. I have also been focusing on my whole body's wellness, so I'm doing weight training, some martial arts, eating more clean foods, yoga, stretching, Pilates. I gained 50 pounds over the pandemic and lockdown, but now I am back to my pre-pregnancy weight, the healthy way. I don't even weigh myself. I just focus on feeling good and getting back into shape. I like being active and living a healthy life, so that has really helped my mental health struggles. Also, definitely having better self-esteem, more confidence, and self-worth has helped the most, honestly. I didn't take any pictures of myself for 2 years of the pandemic, but I'm starting to take more pictures and getting out more and just enjoying life more. I'm in a much better headspace and definitely feel more hopeful about the future. Thank you all for your help and just caring and not for judging. I really appreciate those caring comments. Thank you. Good job, Reddit. Good job, Internet, for not kicking somebody at their lowest point and being like, you're a terrible mother. No, they're like, hey, this is tough. I feel you. You can get through this. And you know what OP did? She got through it. Good for her. Her life is way better. Her daughter's getting better. She seems to be keeping her daughter, so that is good. It's a happy ending. I mean, what more do you want? We need more happy endings, please. Next story. Story number 3. Am I the a-hole for insulting my father's girlfriend and telling her to get out of our lives? My mother was my world. I remember reading books, watching documentaries, and going on road trips with her. She baked my sister and I cookies whenever we were sick. Her and Dad would take us hiking every other week. I still miss her, even now. When I was 11 years old, she passed away from a driving accident. It was the hardest year in my life, and it hasn't gotten any easier. 2 years after she passed, my father started dating a woman named Nicole, and 4 years later, they're getting married. Nicole is younger than my father. After dating Nicole, I saw my father come back into his shell, but it turned into something else. Nicole brought adventure back into his life, but they often went on elaborate trips and frequent nights out. During all of this, I felt neglected. My father slowly stopped taking my sister and I on our weekly hikes. He started speaking less and less over calls, and even once forgot my mother's birthday. After she came into our lives, I started losing my father. He just wasn't there anymore. One time, when my sister and I were home alone, she fell down the stairs and got a huge cut on her forehead. It was clear she needed stitches, so I called my father immediately. Nicole answered the phone, and I told her to give the phone to my father. She refused, saying he was busy, and before I could get another word in, she disconnected the call. I embarrassingly had to ask the neighbor to bring us to urgent care, where my dad later met up with us. This woman at one point removed my mother's picture from the fire mantle to put up a picture of her and my dad from their trip to Washington. The thing that tipped me over was when she made my father forget about my mother's birthday. Every year, my sister and I go with our father to visit my mother on her birthday. It was an annual tradition, even before Nicole entered our lives. Nicole and my father went on a trip to Florida and were supposed to be back 3 days before my mother's birthday. But because this woman is motion sick, my father decided to break the drive back into small intervals to make it easier on her. Because of this, he ended up missing our annual trip. He didn't even call us. Not even a week later, my father has the nerve to tell us about an exciting surprise. Nicole is pregnant. I got angry at my father and I told him, "You need to knock her ass up when you can't even be here for us?" I then look at Nicole and tell her she is a disgusting piece of trash and needs to get out of our lives. My father gets angry and yells at me to go up to my room. Later, my grandpa unexpectedly came over to pick me up. My father didn't text me a thing. Even as I left, he wouldn't even look at me. It's been 2 days and I'm still at my grandparents' home. I feel ashamed for saying what I said, yet I don't feel overwhelming regret. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I've decided to contact my maternal grandpa tomorrow. I'll let you know how it goes. Here are some relevant comments. One user said, "You didn't say your age, but I hope you can move out soon." I appreciate it. I'm 17, and I've spoken to school counselors too. No one is willing to help me. I've tried talking with my dad about how I feel way before my outburst, but it always ends with, "It happened years ago, it's time to move on." I don't even know what that means. My sister can't get help either, so I'm trying to peacefully exist for her. I am 17, my sister is 13, my dad is 44, and Nicole is 34. OP, has Nicole ever tried to connect? I ran out of characters in the original post, but that's the thing. Nicole never made any effort to talk to us, apart from when we go out for family dinners or when we're at parties. Even then, the conversations are always about her. My dad invited her on our hikes early in their relationship, but she didn't like being outside. And over time, my dad stopped taking us hiking, even when we asked him. Nicole does pottery from time to time, and I've invited her to my Art Honor Society events, but she's always declined. We've made every effort to get to know her, but she only seems interested in talking with my dad. She doesn't understand we are a part of his life too. Then, more users asked OP to elaborate on her grandparents and their role in this. I didn't touch on this before, but I am currently living with my paternal grandparents. They live closer to us than my maternal side grandpa. I've tried talking to my paternal grandparents too, but it was always a very wishy-washy conversation. Not to say it didn't help at times, but it's clear that they were justifying my dad's actions at every chance rather than hearing me out. I don't want to live like this. I hate holding resentment, but I can't help it. I've asked my dad about therapy, but he doesn't believe in that type of support. This morning, I asked my paternal grandparents if I could spend Thanksgiving at my maternal grandpa's place, and they refused. And that's another thing. I can't escape the situation or the bad feelings if I wanted to. I know Dad and Nicole will come over for Thanksgiving, and I'll have to sit there.
Then OP elaborated on counseling.
I want grief counseling mainly, but even just help working through my resentment towards my dad and Nicole is enough. I don't want to go to bed crying every other night. I don't want to feel hate. I just want to be mentally at peace. My dad doesn't believe in therapy or counseling. I don't know what made him hold these views, but it's made it harder for my sister and I to get help. I've secretly talked to school counselors, my paternal grandparents, my dad, my aunt, dad's sister, but it's never a productive conversation. The only person who has helped me the most was my maternal grandpa, but we are barely allowed to see him. I've calmly expressed how I felt to my dad on multiple occasions.
OP, you said you talked to your school counselor. What did they say?
They can't point me to a resource without my dad's consent. The conversations usually end with wanting to speak with my dad. I don't expect them to have a solution to every situation, but it would be nice just to be heard fully. I also have to censor a few details when I speak with them because they have sent a police officer to my house in the past. My dad was angry about that situation, and I don't want him to feel angry with me. As for therapy, my dad doesn't believe in therapy or counseling, so I'm limited with options.
Then OP elaborated more on the police visit.
When I spoke to the school counselor, I mentioned that when my dad and Nicole were traveling abroad, he left me and my sister home alone for 3 days and forgot to leave us some money to get food. Because of this, a police officer was sent to our home to check in on us, and my dad got angry about me sharing family information to strangers. Another time, he forgot to pick up my sister from swim practice for an hour or so. My dad got a call from the swim place, and he told me to walk 30 minutes and get my sister. As for feelings, I feel like my mind is a bit lighter, and my heart doesn't feel as heavy as before. It helped me process my emotions somewhat.
OP, maybe you need to tell the school counselor about what is going on regardless.
I've debated about it, but at the end of the day, my sister and I still need our dad. He financially supports us, and we still live in his home. He has control over our college funds, so the last thing I want is to jeopardize that. Also, my sister is still young, and I know she still needs him even if he's emotionally available. I don't want that to be potentially taken away from her. Update: 2 days later. I've called my maternal grandpa when everyone else was still sleeping. It ended up being a 2-hour call. I basically mentioned to him everything I've said here, and how I want to live with him if possible. He said that as much as he wants me to get out from there, that he can't do much without my father's approval. I hinted at a legal approach, but he said he wouldn't be able to see us if it got that far. My grandpa also shared some new info regarding my dad. According to him, when I was 14 and my sister was 10, my dad dropped us over at my grandpa's farm since he and Nicole were flying out. A day after they returned, my grandpa dropped us back home. We were still sleeping in Grandpa's car when this ordeal happened. But when my grandpa knocked on the door, my dad answered the door drunk out of his mind. From what little he could see, my grandpa saw that the house was a mess. He told my dad that he would bring us back the following day once my dad was in his right mind. We left to go back to Grandpa's place. Then, my grandfather got a call from my dad the next morning, threatening him with the police if he didn't bring us back immediately. My grandpa mentioned that he would speak with my paternal grandparents to see if something can be done about our situation. Update 2. Hi everyone, it's been a while. I really just want to thank all of you for your perspective and advice. Just wanted to give an update. Regarding Thanksgiving dinner, when my dad and Nicole arrived, I asked if I could speak with them both. My dad said he didn't want to talk and went into the living room. Nicole still remained by the front door, so I apologized for insulting her. She replied that she needed to leave and went to the living room. Overall, she still seemed rightfully angry with me. Dinner was awkward because my grandma would try to get my dad and I to talk, but he wouldn't really bother. After dinner, I pulled him aside and apologized again. He ignored me and went straight to Nicole. I still wasn't sure if I was heading back with him or not, so I packed everything just in case. When he was getting ready to leave, I asked him if I could come back home. He said Nicole wasn't comfortable having me home even though it had been a few days since the incident. I spent the entire night crying on the phone with my sister. As for therapy and the living situation, after having my call with my maternal grandpa, he called my paternal grandparents a couple days later to discuss my situation. I overheard the call between them. My maternal grandpa expressed he was concerned about me, especially my mental state, and asked my paternal grandparents if they were willing to talk to my dad about putting me in therapy. My grandparents said they'd be willing to take me to their church's mental health support group or talk with their faith leader who specializes in grief counseling. My grandpa pushed back on the idea and mentioned a need for a more professional help, but they were not receptive to the idea. All three of them also had a heated conversation about my living arrangement. My grandpa said it was ridiculous for a grown man to throw out their daughter, and it was shameful that my paternal grandparents are not hard-pressed in helping me get back home. That's all I heard regarding the conversation. Now, my grandma started taking me to weekly private sessions with the faith leader. I'm not entirely happy with the arrangement, but it has helped me to start process my grief in a healthier way. Also, I am still living with my grandparents. I apologized over and over through text to my dad and through my grandparents, but he has not responded. My maternal grandpa has called my dad many times, but my dad blocked him. I am contemplating telling my school counselor next semester all the details regarding my dad and not omitting anything to protect him. I also wasn't invited to my dad and Nicole's Christmas dinner, which hurt, but I'm starting to not care to have a relationship with my dad. I don't know if my feelings will change. In a twisted way, it was good he didn't let me go back home with him. The space has helped me focus on myself.
Here are some more relevant comments. One user asked, "Is your sister still in the house?"
I ran out of characters in the update, but my sister is still living with my dad. She visits me over the weekends, and I've walked home with her from school, so I still have some contact.
Then another user said, "Text him once more and say you're not sorry. Have him sign away his paternal rights and then go scorched earth."
I've thought about this long and hard to the point it had me mentally consumed. I've imagined every revenge and final say moments, but one thing I've recognized in therapy is how much my resentment and anger has been holding me back from moving on. I am now just trying to emotionally detach from them. I have every intention to involve the school counselor for my sister.
OP, you have done the right thing.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to college and putting this behind me in time. I'm trying to convince my grandparents to allow my sister to live with them full time, so she has some semblance of peace.
Has your father stopped leaving your sister alone for days at a time?
He hasn't gone on any major trips since the end of November, but he definitely will for his California trip in January. I've asked my grandparents if they could let her stay over during then, and honestly, for the foreseeable future.
Then OP responded to a comment with advice and a lot of questions.
I can't live with my maternal grandpa because I'm sure my dad wouldn't allow it. He has threatened to call the cops in the past when my sister and I stayed at my grandpa's place. Given how my grandpa and dad are not on speaking terms, I believe trying to live with him will only further prevent us from seeing him. Believe me, I never wanted to go to a faith leader for mental help. My paternal grandparents are hell-bent on not taking me to a valid professional. They don't believe in it and are worried what others might think of me if I do. I can drive myself, but I don't have my own car. I also don't want to lie to my grandparents about my whereabouts if I do take their truck. It's too big of a risk for me. I've lost a lot of love and respect I have for my father. I've stopped trying to communicate. I still end up crying some days, but it's becoming less frequent. The only reason I'll ever talk to him is if it's anything regarding my sister. Nicole is 34 years old and my dad is 44 years old. I hope he is present for the baby. I have no expectations for him having regret or expressing remorse. My image of him pretty much died the moment he kicked me out. I already work at a local diner, so I'm hoping to save enough before summer at least. Also, I've gotten into 2 to 3 colleges as of right now. I'm excited for that chapter. Thank you for your advice.
Then OP elaborated on how she is doing now.
I ended up spending New Year's Eve with a couple of my friends and sister. A little silver lining in all of this, I guess. Also, Nicole's cooking kinda sucks, so missing Christmas wasn't that bad. I'm not religious, so I was skeptical of the faith-based approach in therapy. It's better than nothing, and the faith leader actually strays from religious-rooted reasons during sessions. Update 3. Hi everyone, I'm feeling overwhelmed with the amount of messages, but I want to say that I am not literate regarding the laws around my situation. Regarding my sister and I's college fund, my mom worked in a small boutique, and some money earned through that was set aside, while my dad worked as a consultant, and I do know that he did put some money into the funds too. I don't know if my sister and I received any money regarding benefits or any monetary inheritance from my mom after she passed. I'm still understanding a great deal of information and writing everything out first. I even recently opened up a bank account with my grandparents' help, so now I will not be dependent on him for simple monetary needs. I have thought about emancipation, but in less than a year I'll be 18, so I am not sure if that avenue is worth my energy given everything else. Also, thank you for leaving info in the comments. I'll certainly be looking into all of that. Also, I know it is a small percentage of people, but please don't send me messages telling me to do violent things to my dad or Nicole or wishing harm on their baby. I don't need that, nor would I wish it upon anybody.
Then OP provided some more information in the comments section.
I believe my mom and dad contributed to a 529 plan for both my sister and I. I don't know how much is in it, or if he'll try to change the beneficiary to possibly the baby after. I am trying to figure that out, since my mom contributed to it as well, if I can still be entitled to that money, or if I could get the money back if he tries to change the beneficiary. I don't know if this part is possible, but a possibility that I thought of. As for the faith leader, he says my dad's behavior is a result of denial of the mourning process, and that his unhealthy coping mechanisms, such as constantly going out with Nicole, have manifested into his current actions. Also, he may be ignoring us because we remind him of our mom or some BS like that. The leader puts heavy emphasis on family, so it's clear that he's just finding roundabout ways to explain my dad's actions, but doesn't acknowledge his wrongdoings. He at least acknowledges my feelings and discusses healthy coping mechanisms and how to manage grief. The faith leader never agreed or disagreed with any of my sentiments. Update number 4. 2 months later. Right now, everything is a mess, so I'll try my best to be coherent. This, in hindsight, was an idiotic mistake on my end, but after I scheduled a meeting with my counselor, I mentioned it while calling my sister. On the call, I never explicitly mentioned my intention to report him, but she started freaking out and telling me it was not a good idea. She ended up crying on call, saying that I would be hurting our father if I reported him. I told her that I wouldn't go to the meeting to help her calm down. Regardless, I still planned on going to the counselor meeting. I scheduled the meeting during the second week of January while my father was out in California. The night before the meeting, I got a call from my father. He said that if I ever wanted a place to live again, to not spread lies about him to the counselor. I said that I would never do that, and that was the end of the call. This was the first time I've spoken to him in days, and I never gave any indication of me reporting him. I realized my sister must have said something, so I called her to talk. I asked her why she would tell him something like this, and she said that he called her to ask what I was doing. She slipped up and told him that I was planning to meet with the counselor. I still ended up going to the counselor meeting, and I told him everything that was going on. I told the counselor to please not notify my father about the meeting, and he agreed. At the very end, the counselor gave me 2 to 3 pamphlets for mental health support and said he'd follow up with me. He also dodged my questions regarding what will happen now. A day later, right after I got back home from school, my paternal grandpa called me over and said he wanted to talk. He told me that the school called my father to set up a meeting with the counselor. He started to yell and get angry with me, saying that if I pull that stuff again, they'll take your sister and the baby away. He also said that I wasn't raised to lie and continued to reprimand me. I never thought my grandpa was capable of being this way, but it scared me how angry he got. I also got grounded, so I'm not allowed to drive or visit friends for a couple of weeks. I don't know what exactly went down in the meeting between the counselor and my father. From the call between my grandpa and father, I learned there was a police officer present in the meeting, and they will be doing a wellness check. Also, my father denied everything I told the counselor, and chalked it up to me being spiteful because I lost my mom. I wasn't in a good mental state afterwards, and I am still not. I call my friend and ask her to stay on the phone with me most times, or I just rot in my room. Also, as punishment, my grandma stopped taking me to the faith leader. So, that's my current situation. I've got a question for you guys. Does OP exist? Is she real? Because the way she's been treated is what you do to someone who isn't real, and it feels like she's halfway there. Holy neglect. The only thing that wasn't mentioned in this story was Child Protective Services, who I hope get involved at some point. This man is a terrible father, and I will boo him. He doesn't believe in therapy, and his parents don't believe in therapy. The good grandparent can't really do much. The other sister is just really young and doesn't realize all
all of this, I think. I don't know, maybe. But oh my goodness. Y'all, this girl is trapped and she can't go anywhere. So it's like she has to do the drastic thing to get out and talk to the counselor and report her dad because he's doing terrible things. This is not what a good parent does. This is not what a bad parent does. This is what an atrocious parent does. Thankfully for OP, she's a smart kid, seemingly. She's got jobs, she's thinking about college. She's coming to be 18 soon. So thank goodness for that. But oh my goodness, I hope the dad gets his comeuppance. And I hope that Nicole blows up. I don't know. Anyway, guys, we are at the end of the I just wish someone to blow up in a comical cartoon way, by the way. But anyway, guys, this is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I am going to go order some food, but not off Uber Eats because that is way too expensive. Okay, bye-bye.